So why does Vedic philosophy say that man can become his own worst enemy? Because the deepest opposition in human lives is not always created by another person, an external circumstance, or even by fate, but by the mind when it loses the guidance of discernment. The Bhagavad Gita teaches that the mind may become either our closest ally or our greatest adversary, depending on whether it is governed by awareness or ruled by impulse. So the mind does not merely experience life as it is, because it interprets every event through memory, through desire, through fear, through attachment, pride, and expectation. And that is why two people may pass through the same circumstance and yet suffer in entirely different ways. So Vedic philosophy explains that the senses continually pull the mind outward towards what is attractive, threatening, pleasurable, painful, flattering, or even unsettling. And when the mind becomes absorbed in all of these movements, it gradually loses its inner steadiness. This is why Ahamkara, the constructed sense of self, becomes powerful, because it persuades us that every opinion must be defended, every rejection must be taken personally, every desire must be fulfilled, and every loss is somehow a diminishment of who we are. Yet beneath the restless mind and the defensive ego lies buddhi, the higher faculty of discernment, whose purpose is to distinguish what is temporary from what is true, what is impulsive from what is wise, and what serves the ego from what serves dharma. So when buddhi is weak, the mind becomes vulnerable to anger, comparison, resentment, and wounded pride. And the individual begins to create suffering, not only through what happens to them, but through how they repeatedly interpret and respond to it. This is why Vedic philosophy does not describe self-mastery as the suppression of emotions, my friends, but as the restoration of inner order in which the senses no longer dominate the mind no longer overpowers discernment, and the ego no longer mistakes itself for the whole self. The real enemy, therefore, is not the mind itself, but the mind when it is disconnected from wisdom. And the real victory is not conquering another person, but reaching a state in which the mind serves consciousness rather than obstructing it. That is when the same mind that once created bondage begins to become the instrument of freedom.